I can only imagine the thoughts that went through the riders' minds standing behind us and in front of us. As you put in the miles, you rode up the hills, down the hills, continued your journey, and I'm sure at times probably got a little tired. And you asked yourself the purpose of the sacrifice. Why am I doing this? And I'm quite certain every single one of you reflected at the exact same moment, I know exactly why. Because I know what sacrifice is. I know what it looks like. I've seen it on the faces of my fellow officers, and I've seen it on the faces of some of their loved ones. But the measure of sacrifice that you gave over the last few days is a small reflection of the level of sacrifice of the names on the wall behind me, and the names on a wall in Nashville, and the names on a wall in Washington, D.C. So on behalf of the law enforcement community, thank you for showing the measure of sacrifice that you did for the last few days to demonstrate the measure of sacrifice that police officers and sheriff's deputies do across this country every single day. And to the loved ones here today, we will always be with you. You will always be part of this family. I will now turn it over to Sheriff Hammond.
Thank you, Chief. I want to, of course, welcome you here. I'm very pleased that you decided you would stop at this memorial. I'm sure there are others you had an opportunity to stop at. As I think about the memorials across this nation, first of all in Washington, where there are over 20,000 names inscribed on the wall. Here we have 66 names inscribed on the wall. I know that you all represent a group of about 1,000 people in 40 states, and you're riding, taking your time and your attention. There's an old saying, when someone gives of their time, they give of their life. You have given of your life in order to honor those who have fallen, those that don't get recognized as much as they ought to. We know that we live in troubled times when it comes to first responders, and especially those in law enforcement, with what's going on around our nation. But we know that we will not forget the sacrifice that those that are inscribed in this wall and those that are in our nation, where their names are inscribed. It's important that we remember those who have gone before us. It's important for us to remember that law enforcement do stand in the gap between good and evil. And as long as we have good men and women like yourself who are willing to sacrifice at the low pay to do this job, the citizens will benefit from it. And I thank you deeply as Sheriff of Hamilton County. Thank you.
I want to take a few moments and tell you a little about Law Enforcement United, which is what we are all riding for right now. For the past 3 days, we rode 280 miles, stopping at small departments, large departments, and remembering their fallen. We've read off, which what we will be doing here, we've read off the names of those that have died in the line of duty, and we remember the survivors that way. We all raised money to participate in this adventure, and yes, we are tired. That money primarily went to the concerns of police survivors and Spirit of the Blue. They support the survivors of the officers who have died in the line of duty. They sponsor kids camps and have scholarships and so forth, and we're proud to have been a part of this. If, with your permission, we'd like to read some of the names. Heather.
Oh, you're tall. Oh, well, that's okay. Thank you. I will now read the line of duty deaths for the Chattanooga Police Department. Sergeant Joseph Brian Montijo, end of watch 11/1/2019. Officer Nicholas Scott Galinger, end of watch 2/24/2019. Sergeant James Timothy Chapin, end of watch 4/2/2011. Officer Julie Jacks, end of watch 5/6/2002. Officer Richard Alexander, end of watch 10/5/2000. Park Police Officer Harry Wilcox, end of watch 1/18/79. Officer David Fredrickson, end of watch 6/18/1978. Officer Nelson Hess, the 5th, end of watch 6/12/1978. Patrolman Clarence E. Hamler, end of watch 8/14/1977. Captain Morris B. Glenn, end of watch 4/7/1971. Officer Harry Thomas Shipley, end of watch 10/4/1953. Officer Ulysses Jackson, end of watch 9/27/1952. Patrolman Arlie E. Carr, end of watch 10/27/1942. Detective Clyde Shipley, end of watch 12/26/1939. Patrolman Walter Mashburn, end of watch 7/16/1932. Patrolman Jesse Shirley, end of watch 11/8/1931. Patrolman James H. Cornett, end of watch 11/4/1931. Patrolman James Dugan, end of watch 6/22/1921. Patrolman Clarence Livingston, end of watch 9/1/1912. Officer Thomas Musgrove, end of watch 10/31/1906. Patrolman Hugh May, end of watch 9/14/1906. Officer David C. Musgrove, end of watch 12/19/1890. Officer James B. Wiggins, end of watch 4/28/1879. Officer Jonathan Merriman, end of watch 5/14/1870. Canine Apache, end of watch 3/29/1966. Chief Roddy, on behalf of Law Enforcement United Tough Ride Division 2021, I would like to present to you this plaque in honor and memory of all the officers that have died in line of duty for Chattanooga Police Department. Thank you.
I'd now like to read the names of the officers that have fallen for the Hamilton County Sheriff's Office. Deputy Sheriff Donald Kenneth Bond, end of watch 9/6/2001. Patrolman Gary F. Dockery, end of watch 4/15/1997. Deputy Sheriff Lyle Armand Sneed, end of watch 12/6/1989. Deputy Sheriff Charles E. Garfield, end of watch 6/2/1961. Deputy Sheriff Jerry J. Hensley, end of watch 3/3 of 1955. Jailer John Asbury Gillespie, end of watch 11/10/1942. Deputy Sheriff John Bell Jones, end of watch 8/13/1933. Marshal James A. Hauser, end of watch 6/11/1929. Deputy Sheriff William B. Gober, end of watch 12/22/1923. Deputy Sheriff John A. Snyder, end of watch 5/13/1923. Deputy Sheriff William Bartlett McIntosh, end of watch 10/18/1919. Deputy Sheriff Oscar Leonard Nance, end of watch 9/22/1912. Special Deputy Sheriff Hugh Rivley, end of watch 6/10/1908. Constable Alonzo Lon Rains, end of watch 12/23/1905. Constable Eugene Lynch, end of watch 3/7/1895. Deputy Sheriff George G. Gibson, end of watch 4/2/1890. Sheriff William T. Cate, end of watch 9/14/1882. Deputy Sheriff John J. Conway, end of watch 9/14/1882. Sheriff, on behalf of Law Enforcement United Tough Ride 2021, I'd like to present you with this plaque of all the names of the fallen of the Hamilton County Sheriff's Office. They're always in our hearts, never forgotten, and we'll never forget.
Thank you, and it is an honor, and it will be put with our law enforcement memorabilia. Thank you.
Thank you.
think that concludes our formal program, unless something else you want to cover.
As the sheriff said, that concludes everything here. I'd say there's a good number of people wearing spandex right now that would like to get this ride over with. Thank you. And to the community, it's Law Enforcement Week, and I get asked all the time, what can we do to help your officers? My response is the same every single time. Tell them thank you. Thank a police officer, let them know that they are appreciated, and it recharges their batteries more than just about anything you can do for us. So on behalf of Chattanooga, thank you all. Get back on your bikes.